Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe and support me. The event horizon hung in space like a solitary sentinel, orbiting the lonely planet X-97 on the outskirts of the black hole's event horizon. The black hole, an ominous, swirling void in the distance, seemed to stretch time and space, distorting reality with its sheer gravitational pull. The planet below was no less mysterious, its surface a desolate wasteland, with peculiar, sluggish time anomalies that defied the very laws of physics. Dr. Claire Emerson stood at the viewport, her eyes fixed on the alien landscape below. She had been to many planets, studied many anomalies in the vast unknown of space, but nothing compared to this. The black hole's proximity alone made it a treacherous mission, but the allure of the planet's strange time flow had drawn her in. It was a discovery that could change everything they knew about time, gravity, and the universe itself. "We're ready to begin the first phase of the experiment, Dr. Emerson," said Dr. Raj Malik, his voice steady but betraying a hint of apprehension. The team had been on edge since arriving. The proximity to the black hole was unsettling for everyone, but Claire had a singular focus in unlocking the secrets of X-97. Claire nodded, her fingers absently tapping the glass of the viewport. "Let's proceed. Keep monitoring the time flow variances. If we're right, we should see a noticeable difference once we're on the surface." Raj gave her a tight-lipped smile before retreating to his station. Behind him, Dr. Eliza Morrow adjusted her equipment, her delicate features framed by auburn hair that had grown limp in the ship's artificial atmosphere. She was the team's psychologist, here to monitor the mental well-being of the crew, but Claire could see the strain in her eyes too. "Everyone feeling all right?" Claire asked, scanning the room. "I've been better," Theo Cross muttered from his corner. He was the engineer, always with a sarcastic quip, but his tension was palpable. He didn't like the black hole. The idea of being near something that could tear them apart atom by atom kept him awake at night. "But I guess none of us signed up for easy missions." "Let's keep it together," Claire said firmly. "We're here for a reason." "Let's not forget that." The planet's surface was barren, with an oppressive gray sky that seemed to pulse with the distant gravitational waves from the black hole. The team had descended in a shuttle, their equipment loaded into portable units as they established their base camp near the equator where time distortions were reportedly at their peak. Theo muttered something about how the place looked like a graveyard for planets, but Claire ignored him, focused on the instruments. The readings were fascinating as the time on the planet was moving slower than they had expected. Hours passed on the ship above while mere minutes ticked by on the planet's surface. It was the perfect opportunity to study extreme time dilation up close. Raj worked furiously at his console, collecting data as Claire directed him. But after a while, something strange began to happen. The readings became erratic, fluctuating wildly before the instruments would stabilize again. "Is it the equipment?" Raj asked, frowning. "No," Claire replied, her brow furrowing. "This planet. It's affecting more than just time. The black hole's gravity might be warping space itself." Eliza stood nearby, her arms folded as she scanned the horizon with unease. "I don't like this place. It feels wrong." "It's not about how it feels, it's about what it means," Claire said, her voice sharper than intended. She knew the risks, but the potential discoveries here were too significant to pass up. But the sensation of something off was hard to shake. Time was wrong here. It moved too slowly, but there was something else, yet an undercurrent of dread that seemed to pull at their minds, just like the black hole pulled at everything around it. 2 days into their mission, things began to deteriorate. Dr. Malik, always calm and collected, reported feeling sluggish and disoriented. He couldn't explain Ida. There were no signs of illness, no malfunctions in his suit or helmet, but he felt as though his mind was moving in slow motion, while the world sped by around him. "Maybe it's the time dilation affecting us in ways we didn't anticipate," Eliza suggested during their evening debriefing. Her voice was calm, but Claire could hear the tremor beneath it. She was trying to rationalize the irrational. Or maybe the planet is affecting more than just time, Theo muttered darkly, not looking up from his tools. Claire's gaze drifted out the window again. The black hole was always there, hovering in the distance like a silent predator. They were too far from its event horizon to be in immediate danger, but its presence was inescapable. And then there was the planet itself, with its strange gravitational anomalies. What if the two were somehow interacting in a way they couldn't yet understand? That night, Claire couldn't sleep. The dreams, no, not dreams, memories, they came back to her vividly, more real than any dream had a right to be. She was back on Earth, at the university, walking across the quad toward the physics building. She could smell the trees, feel the cool breeze on her skin, and then she was home, sitting at the dinner table with her husband and daughter, their laughter ringing in her ears. But then, just as quickly, it all began to dissolve, the edges of the memory fraying, the sounds distorting until everything was consumed by the void. She woke up gasping, her heart pounding in her chest. It wasn't just a dream. It had felt real, too real. The next morning, she didn't mention the dream to the others. But when she glanced at Eliza during breakfast, she saw the same haunted look in her eyes. They were all feeling it. The black hole wasn't just warping time, it was warping them. By the fourth day, the situation had worsened. Dr. Malick's condition had deteriorated rapidly. He moved like a man twice his age, his limbs sluggish, his reflexes slow. Theo, always the skeptic, ran every diagnostic he could think of, but found no cause for Malick's condition. It's like his body is out of sync, Theo said, frustration lacing his words. There's no medical explanation for this. But Claire knew, it wasn't just time they were dealing with here. It was the nature of reality itself, bending and warping under the influence of the black hole's immense gravity. They had ventured too close to forces they barely understood, and now they were paying the price. Eliza, meanwhile, was becoming more withdrawn. She spent hours staring at the horizon, her face pale and drawn. When Claire asked her what was wrong, she simply shook her head, refusing to speak about the things she was seeing in her dreams. And Claire couldn't shake the feeling that she was losing her grip on reality. Time seemed to slip away from her in strange intervals. One moment she'd be in the middle of a conversation with Theo, and the next, she'd find herself alone in the base camp, the others gone, as if she had blinked and lost hours in the process. They had to leave. She knew that now, whatever secrets X-97 held, they weren't worth the cost. But the ship isn't responding to their commands. When Theo tried to initiate the launch sequence, the systems would lock up, trapped in a loop of error messages. It was as if the planet itself didn't want them to leave. We're trapped here, Theo said grimly, after another failed attempt to reboot the systems. Whatever's happening to USA, it's getting worse. The ship's eye is glitching out. I can't fix it. Claire stared at the readouts, her mind racing. How had everything gone so wrong so quickly? What had started as a simple mission to study time dilation had become a nightmare, and now they were running out of time, if time even existed here anymore. We need to find a way off this planet, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. There has to be something we're missing, some way to break free from this gravity well. But as she said the words, she wasn't sure she believed them. The black hole loomed larger every day, its pull inescapable, its influence growing stronger with every passing moment. And she couldn't shake the feeling that they were already too far gone. The black hole felt closer now. Claire couldn't shake the sensation, a creeping awareness that its gravity wasn't just pulling at the planet but at their very minds. The warping of time was only the beginning. What they hadn't anticipated or what they couldn't have was how it would distort their perception of reality itself. Theo was working tirelessly, his fingers flying across the console as he attempted one last repair on the ship's systems. But deep down, Claire knew it was futile. The black hole wasn't just pulling them physically, it was breaking them down piece by piece. We're not going to make it out of here, Are we? Eliza's voice startled Claire. She hadn't even heard her approach. Eliza's eyes were red-rimmed, hollow. She had the look of someone who had already given up. Claire hesitated, unsure of what to say. The truth felt like a death sentence, but a lie would be cruel. "We'll figure it out," she said, though the words rang hollow even to her own ears. Eliza just shook her head, a weak smile playing at her lips. "You don't believe that." "I can see it in your eyes." Before Claire could respond, there was a sudden, sharp bang from across the room. Theo cursed under his breath, pulling his hand back from the console as sparks flew. "Damn thing's completely fried now." "We've got nothing left," he said, wiping the sweat from his brow. His face was drawn tight with frustration and exhaustion. "I've tried every workaround I can think of. This planet, this black hole, it's interfering with everything. The ship, our bodies, even our minds. We need to get out of here now, but I don't see how." Claire's mind raced, searching for any possible solution. The black hole's influence was growing stronger by the hour, and the strange effects on their perception of time had only worsened. Dr. Malik was barely functioning, his body so sluggish now that even simple movements seemed to exhaust him. He had become a shadow of the man he once was, lost in the folds of distorted time. "We have to find a way," Claire said, more to herself than to the others. "If we can disrupt the gravitational field, even temporarily, we might be able to launch the ship." "How do you suggest we do that?" Theo asked, his tone laced with skepticism. "We've barely got enough power to keep life support running. We're on borrowed time as it is." "There's something on this planet. I don't know what exactly, but the Korea broken bar the gravitational anomalies we detect, it has to be coming from there. If we can harness whatever is down there, maybe we can reverse the gravitational pull, just long enough to break free." Theo stared at her for a long moment before shaking his head. "You're talking about trekking into the heart of this nightmare. You really think we'll survive that?" "We don't have a choice," Claire said. "If we stay here, we die. If we go, we might die. But at least it's a chance." Eliza spoke up, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've seen things in my dreams. Or maybe they weren't dreams. I don't know anymore." Her eyes flicked to the viewport, where the black hole's ominous presence loomed. "I think it's inside us now, warping us from the inside out." Claire placed a hand on Eliza's shoulder, steadying her. "We're not giving up." "Not yet," Theo sighed, glancing back at his malfunctioning console before standing. "Fine. If we're doing this, we'd better move fast." "I don't like our odds, but sitting here isn't helping anyone." The journey to the planet's core was a descent into madness. As they trekked across the barren landscape, the gravitational anomalies grew more intense, warping the very fabric of space and time around them. Objects seemed to flicker in and out of existence, time itself bending in unpredictable ways. At one point, Claire watched Theo take a step forward, only for his body to blur, shifting like a skipping record. He reappeared several feet ahead of her, disoriented but otherwise unharmed. "We're losing our grip on reality," he muttered, eyes wide as he glanced around, as though afraid something might pull him out of existence altogether. "It's the black hole," Claire said, her voice tight with strain. "It's distorting everything. We have to stay focused." They pressed on, each step feeling heavier as the planet's gravity pulled harder. The ground beneath them became unstable, trembling as if in response to the immense forces at play. The closer they got to the core, the more intense the gravitational distortions became. Time, already a fragile concept on this planet, began to splinter around them. Then, they reached the core. It wasn't what they expected. Instead of a cavernous chamber filled with molten rock or unstable elements, they found a strange, crystalline structure embedded in the ground. The crystals pulsed with an eerie, rhythmic glow, as if responding to some unseen force. "This is it," Claire said, her voice barely audible over the hum of energy. "This is what's been causing the anomalies. We need to extract whatever this is." "Yeah? And how do you suppose we do that?" Theo asked, His voice edged with doubt. "We don't even know what the hell we're looking at." Claire stepped forward, kneeling beside the crystals. She could feel the energy pulsing beneath her fingertips, resonating through her bones. It was raw, untamed power enough to disrupt the black hole's gravitational field, if they could harness it. But it was also dangerous. The wrong move could destroy them all. "I'll do it," she said, her hands trembling as she reached for the tools in her pack. "We don't have time to debate. This is our only shot." Theo cursed under his breath but didn't stop her. Eliza stood back, her arms wrapped tightly around herself as if trying to protect her mind from the chaos surrounding them. Claire worked quickly, her hands steady despite the tremors running through her body. The crystals were more delicate than they appeared, and she had to be careful not to disturb the unstable energy field they emitted. Every second counted. She could feel the black hole's pull growing stronger, tugging at the edges of her consciousness, threatening to drag her into oblivion. With a final, careful movement, she extracted the core crystal. The moment it was free, the ground beneath them shuddered violently, as though the planet itself was crying out in pain. "We need to go, now," Theo said, his voice urgent as he grabbed Claire's arm and pulled her to her feet. The race back to the ship was a blur of fractured time and distorted space. Every step felt like an eternity, the planet's gravity pulling harder with each passing second. Claire's vision blurred as the black hole's presence grew overwhelming, pressing in on all sides, distorting everything around them. By the time they reached the ship, Claire wasn't sure how much time had passed. Minutes, hours, days. It all felt meaningless now. Theo rushed to install the crystal in the ship's power core while Claire and Eliza worked to stabilize the systems. The black hole's pull was almost unbearable now, its gravity warping the ship's hull as they prepared for launch. "Is it working?" Claire asked, her voice strained as she held onto the console for support. "Almost there," Theo grunted, his hands moving frantically over the controls. "Come on, come on." Suddenly, the ship shuddered violently, and the engines roared to life. The crystal had done its job. The gravitational pull weakened, just enough for them to break free of the planet's grip. "Hold on!" Theo shouted as the ship rocketed upward, away from the planet and the black hole's deadly embrace. The black hole loomed behind them, its pull still strong, but the ship had enough momentum to escape barely. As they broke free from the black hole's event horizon, the distortion around them began to ease. Time returned to its normal flow, the warped reality they had experienced dissolving like a nightmare fading in the morning light. But Claire couldn't shake the feeling that something was still wrong. The black hole was behind them now, distant and cold, but its presence lingered in her mind like a shadow. And then she realized, they had escaped the planet, but had they truly escaped the black hole's influence? The memories, the visions, the warping of time, it had affected more than just their surroundings. It had burrowed deep into their minds, warping their very perception of reality. As the ship sped away, Claire stared out at the void, her thoughts drifting. Had they really escaped? Or were they still trapped in the gravitational abyss, caught in an endless loop of time and space, doomed to repeat the same moments forever? She glanced at Theo, who was busy monitoring the ship's systems, and Eliza, who sat quietly in her chair, staring blankly ahead. They had survived. But at what cost? The black hole was still out there, lurking in the darkness, and Claire knew, deep down, that it would never truly let them go.